Hello cloud experts. So we have already discussed IAM and a detailed demo on IAM. Now here we are going to talk about some other security services. My name is Sanjay Kumar and I'm a cloud trainer and consultant. So let's move forward. So in this case we are talking about services which are related to security, identity and compliance. And here the first service what we have already discussed is called as IAM, which is Identity and Access Management. We have GuardDuty, which is another service, Inspector, and WAF and Shield. Out of these, we have already talked about IAM, but let's have a quick review on IAM and then we'll move forward with other services. IAM manages user and their access to the AWS resources. So who should be able to access your AWS resources as a user or as an administrator? So we can define that by creating some users and assigning some privileges to those users so they will be able to configure, reconfigure, change or delete your AWS resources. What it offers? It offers you a centralized control of your AWS account, shared access of multiple users within the same organization, and giving some granular permission to those users whether they are allowed to do only certain part of your things which can be done with the AWS infrastructure. It also allows you to have identity federation as well as MFA, which is called as multi-factor authentication, and it also integrates with many other AWS services. So IAM have mainly four terminologies which are called as user, groups, policies and roles. Out of these, first we'll talk about the users. Users are the end users who are trying to access your AWS infrastructure, and those users will have certain permission how and what they can do with that infrastructure on the AWS. However, if you have many users which requires the same permissions to access those AWS resources, we can group them together, and all the users with the similar capabilities a part of the same group, and we will give the policies to the group instead of giving it to the users. However, if there are some AWS services trying to access other AWS services, in that case we have to create something called as roles. So whether it is a group user or a group or roles, all of them have to get some policies, some policies to actually get some authorities or some authorization. Without policies, they have zero authority to do anything in the AWS account. So they can't do anything without having a certain policy. Policies are typically JSON documents which are actually allowing you or denying you access to some of the AWS resources. One user can have multiple policies, one group also can have multiple policies, and one role can also have multiple policies. At the same time, in a group I can have multiple users, but it is not mandatory for a user to be a part of that group. So user, group and roles all will be assigned some policies, and they will be able to do anything in those AWS resources depending on the conditions in the policies, and policies are typically JSON documents. Now the next one is Amazon GuardDuty. Amazon GuardDuty does the continuous monitoring of your AWS account and workload to protect you against malicious and unauthorized activities in your AWS infrastructure. It can analyze tens of billions of events across multiple AWS data sources like AWS CloudTrail, Amazon VPC flow logs, DNS logs, and we can do it within a few clicks in the AWS Management Console. GuardDuty can be enabled with no software or hardware to deploy or maintain, and straightforward push into existing event management workflow system. So you don't really need a specific hardware or software to deploy or maintain, and you can simply have an event management system and you can enable your GuardDuty, and it can start monitoring your AWS account against any malicious and unauthorized activities in your AWS infrastructure. Amazon Inspector is typically an automated security assessment service that helps us to improve the security and compliance of application deployed on AWS. The main function of Amazon Inspectors are: it can identify application security issues, it can make good use of AWS security practices, managing security compliance, enforcing security standards, and that's all what we have over the AWS Inspector or Amazon Inspector. Amazon WAF and Shield. WAF is Web Application Firewall to protect your web applications or APIs against common web exploits that may affect availability, compromise security, or consume your excessive resources in your AWS infrastructure. So this is typically a firewall for the web application which can support your web application, or I say protect your web application against the common web exploits, where AWS Shield is a managed distributed denial of services, which is typically DDoS attacks. So to prevent DDoS attacks on applications which are running on AWS infrastructure. So AWS Shield is basically protects our services to prevent us from any DDoS attacks on our application. That's all we have in this session.